Good morning. Does it work? Right. Okay. Good morning and welcome. It is a pleasure to be here today for me to present the work we are doing in Catalonia in the field of monitoring smart specialization with open data and artificial intelligence. I'm very happy to do it together with a representative from Emilia-Romagna region, probably one of the best places in the world, besides Catalonia, of course. Together with Catalonia are one of the other pioneering regions in Europe regarding monitoring smart specialization strategies. With Emilia-Romagna region, we have a long story of collaboration. Both governments have signed a collaboration agreement regarding some strategic issues for both regions, being one of them the smart specialization strategy. Today, we have with us Marina Silverii. I've told that this is the right pronunciation. Marina Silverii, Executive Director from ARTER, the Regional Innovation Agency, and Giorgio Moretti, responsible for research and innovation in ARTER, to present the new platform of the monitoring system for smart specialization of Emilia-Romagna region. Both regions are collaborating with the company Siris Academic, highly specialized in higher education, research and innovation policy and analytics, with whom we have been working in the last years to develop the RIS3-MCAT platform, a reference in Europe that is operative since 2018. Bernardo Rondelli from Siris will present the last developments in the monitoring of a smart specialization strategy. He will talk about the main challenges, trends, and opportunities regarding open data, open science, and artificial intelligence. But before him, our special guest, Ismail Ràfols, senior researcher of the Center for Science and Technology Studies at the Leiden University and UNESCO Chair in Diversity and Inclusion in Global Science, will invite us to rethink the monitoring of research and innovation for addressing societal challenges, presenting the work he is doing in his research and with the UNESCO. He will center the debate about how counting items, number of publications, citations, patents, etc., is not enough to monitor the results of research and innovation. He will explain us why we need a contextualized perspective and to introduce process-related indicators. To have indicators to measure the impact of research and innovation on addressing societal challenges is an urgent need for governments and policy makers. Without indicators, we cannot have evidence-based policies. But these indicators must reflect the impacts that are relevant for policies and society, not only the impacts that are easy to measure. This is a huge challenge, and in the last decade, there has been a worldwide debate on how to measure the impact of research and innovation, and on the need to develop advanced smart monitoring systems and indicators. This is linked to the development of open science, for which Ismail is also a reference. Open data, artificial intelligence, and advanced digital visualization tools contribute to develop the new generation of monitoring system for research and innovation and for smart specialization strategies. In today's session, we are going to learn about the latest conceptual and technological developments, but also about the practical cases of Emilia-Romagna region and Catalonia, presented by Giorgio Moretti and Tatiana Fernandez, and how they support better policy making, communication with citizens, and collaboration in the R&I ecosystems. After the 4 presentations, we will have a coffee break. After the break, we will change the language to Catalan, much easier for me, And Marta Cortijo and Josep Pujol will present the latest development of the RIS3-MCAT platform and explore its use with illustrative use cases. Since we launched the platform, more than 5,000 unique users from 73 countries have accessed the platform with an average session during over 4 minutes. We are also very happy that the actors of the Catalan research and innovation ecosystem are using the platform for many more users as it was initially designed for. With that, I invite to join me in this welcome Marina Silverii, Executive Director from IRT-IR. After her, Ismail Ràfols, Senior Researcher at the Center for Science and Technology Studies at the Leiden University and UNESCO Chair in Diversity, Inclusion and Global Science, will invite us to rethink those indicators. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for this invitation. It's true that our two regions have a long story of cooperation, and our President Bonaccini was last year to sign the agreement for formalize the willingness to cooperate again on some particular field. And I hope that today is a new starting day for this cooperation, in particular on smart specialization strategy and its monitoring system. So I will use some minutes, some slides, very shortly, to introduce some elements of our regional innovation ecosystem, to help you to understand better the presentation of my colleague Giorgio Moretti later. So maybe most of you already know something about our region. We have a strong manufacturing system. 95% of our companies are SMEs, but with a high attitude, strong attitude to innovate. And also we have a very high rate of export, so a very strong attitude to the internationalization of the market. And we have also a rich system of research. You can see in these slides a list of universities and research centers and research infrastructures. According to the last European Innovation Scoreboard, Emilia-Romagna is the first in Italy for innovation. We have to do more and more, but this is the first result. And this is also thanks to the investment that our region has put on an innovation system since the beginning of 2000s. Setting up a structured system with industrial research laboratories. At the center of this system there is ARTER. ARTER is a consortium. The main shareholder is the Emilia-Romagna region, but also universities and the main national research centers located in our territory are our shareholders. So ARTER concretize the relationship, the structured relationship and cooperation among region and all the universities and research centers. We deal with territorial development, attractiveness, internationalization, but we have mainly the institutional role to coordinate the networks composing the innovation ecosystem. But we offer also some concrete services to our players. For example, we deal with startups, acceleration programs, open innovation with consolidated companies. We deal with European funds and so on. And for the smart specialization strategies, we have the role of monitoring, but also to support the region in the pathway, in the participating process to define the contents. Below on this slide, you can see the main network giving services for innovation to our companies. The backbone is the high technology network made by industrial research laboratories, public and private. They pass through a certification process managed by Arter. And most of them are located in some technopoles. Each main city has a technopole in region because the system is widespread, disseminated on the territory, not centralized, but polycentric. And the technopole is the door to accede to enter in this structured offer of competencies. And in the last year, we developed also some network helping companies for the digital transformation. And we, as Arter, manage one of the European Digital Innovation Hub. We put the system of cluster above in the slide in the part of governance because our cluster start from an initiative of the industrial research laboratories, has companies as members. We involve until now more or less 400 companies and other players related to the several topics. But they have a systemic role to develop scenarios, technology forecasting and scenarios, or they are working now, for example, to define scenarios about the high competencies that the companies need for the future. They develop a strategic project and program. They don't offer the specific service to the specific member for its competitiveness as a role of governance, of systemic role. You can see the last one, the two last clusters. We have 11 clusters now. The new ones are about urban economy and tourism. I want to underline this, some aspect related to our smart specialization strategy. We are asking now to our cluster to work in a cross-sectorial, cross-cluster way, because you will see our new smart specialization strategy now is based on cross-sectorial challenges mission. And the cluster now have to work together in a transversal way. This is the first aspect. The second aspect, urban development, tourism. So we are enlarging the competencies involving in this system, not strictly technological one, but we are involving humanities, social innovation, culture, urban development, because to face the challenges, the mission that our territories have. The last minute I want to show only one strategic project that we have, because it's important also for our smart specialization strategy. You can see in this slide, this area is not so far from the city center of Bologna. And there you can find, we are building again the area, but anyway, you already can find some supercomputer and data center, very important and strategic at the international level. You can find there the data center of ECMWF, that is the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast. but also the supercomputer of CINECA, that is the consortium of all Italian universities and most important player in capacity of calculation. And you can find there also the brother of your Mare Nostrum, managed by Barcellona Supercomputing Center, Leonardo, managed by CINECA. That is one of the three supercomputer presa scale on which the European Commission has invested. So is a in this area converge European, national and regional investment on big data and capacity of calculation. It's for that the Emilia-Romagna region decided to launch a strategic program, Data Valle Emilia-Romagna, to develop, for example, competencies on the field of big data and artificial intelligence. And I would show this only to underline that this is an aspect that transversally has an impact on our smart specialization strategy. I'm sorry if I use too much time, and I thank you again for the invitation. I leave the floor to the next one. Thank you.
Well, good morning and thanks for the invitation. Pleasure being here and see that there are changes in monitoring. We are discussing about what type of indicators should be used in policy, and we started here in the small chat with what I thought was a very nice example, which is the case of the GDP. So the GDP is a good example of an indicator which is widely used. It tells us about whether there is economic growth or not, but it doesn't tell us about many of the problems that our societies are facing, and it doesn't tell us ideas about where should we go strategically towards the future. And I think this is the same type of issues that we have in measuring science, technology, and in innovation. I'll start with the argument. So the argument is that there has been a change in how we understand science, technology, and innovation. After 60 years ago, after the war, there was the assumption that you started with science, that would lead to technology, and that would lead to economic growth. Now, and into science, there was only the request that it would produce good science. But this has changed. Now, in science, we recognize that the way science goes into society happens through local interactions. It is expected from science to contribute to sustainable development, and it is expected that local stakeholders, be it in the form of companies, but also through civic society organizations, they will help think about what type of research is relevant for innovations that lead to well-being. These are expectations that are now placed in science, technology, and innovation. The second part will be about thinking what open science is. Because open science is very often thought in terms of putting data publicly available and taking the UNESCO framework, which comes from the UNESCO recommendations in 2021 on open science. I will put the emphasis in that putting the data open, it's not enough. That's the beginning. But in order for that data to be used in meaningful ways, it is very important that types of monitoring, like the ones provided, that's going to be shown today, are developed so that data becomes meaningful for citizens. And the third point will be, okay, so given that there is a change in the understanding of what science should contribute to society, given the technological possibilities of open data, but also the interfaces, we are now in a position to move to different monitoring tools associated with practices of how this information is then used in policy. So let's start with the shift in the understanding of innovation. As I was saying, after the post-war, the dominant model of thinking how science would contribute to society was the so-called the linear model. Science, technology, innovation would lead to well-being. And the way to measure it was captured by the OECD Frascati manual, which was based in inputs and outputs. In terms of inputs is investment, how many people, and then in terms of outputs there would be number of publications, number of patents, and they were trying to develop number of innovations. But this model came under criticism when Japan in the 70s and 80s became a world leader in innovation without having a strong university system. So what was happening there? Well, it turned out that Japanese companies had a very fluid and good relationship, very strong interactions with a variety of actors, universities in terms of providing master students, PhDs, the suppliers that facilitated innovation. So then the emphasis of thought, well, Japan, it's not that it has great universities or great research centers. In Japan, what there is a good innovation system in which the interactions between the different actors are very fluid. And from this arose the notion of innovation system, also with contributions from Northern Europe, in which the emphasis is in the interactions. And this is what, in terms of measurement, monitoring, was captured by the so-called Oslo Manual of the OECD, which is a survey sent to companies in which companies are asked of how they introduced innovations in terms of the interactions they have with the actors in the science system. Now, the claim is that this model, which is the OECD model with the Oslo Manual, which is currently the dominant in policy, came under questioning when there was the increasing realization that a number of the innovations were leading to problematic situations in society. What types of problems? Climate change, pollution, lack of inclusion of many or important parts of the population. So the idea was that it is not just a question of producing innovations, we need innovation in directions that are sustainable. Sustainable in social terms, in environmental terms. And deciding what directions innovation should go needed to be asked contextually and in a situated manner. And this meant asking where are we going, what type of technologies, innovations are we interested in, who is going to lead in developing them, for whom will they be developed. And this development happened in parallel to the development of the notion of open science. Open science, we can trace it back to the late 90s, when with the digitalization of research, there was more and more possibilities of sharing information openly. But it really has taken off in the last 10 years. Most of the emphasis is in terms of open access publications, open research data, open educational resources. And making these resources is very important. I think it is really fantastic the way in the US, for example, all the projects of research are openly available in a very easy to access portal, and the same for the UK, and this is not the case for the Spanish government. I don't know the case of Italy, but it's not the case in a number of European countries, but it is the case in some others. And in terms of analyzing what type of research is carried out in these systems, having these portals really makes a difference. So this is very important. It is also important that big infrastructures, like the ones that were shown before by Dr. Silverii, are openly accessible from a variety of sources. So although it is located in Emilia-Romagna, the center, there is possibility of people from different places to access it. Right? So there is also this importance of the infrastructure. Now, in the open science framing of the European Commission, there is some talk about the importance of citizen science as a way of thinking what types of science should be developed, the importance of engagement. But this is much more emphasized in the UNESCO framing of open science. So you see, whereas in green we had the first pillar, which is this making data publications openly available. In pink, the infrastructure. In the UNESCO framing, there is a lot of emphasis on the importance of engagement of societal actors in science, and also in terms of dialogue with other knowledge. And this other knowledge can be interpreted in a variety of ways. Usually it is interpreted in terms of dialogue with indigenous communities, which is relevant in many parts of the world. But I think it is also understood as exchanges in knowledge with local communities, or maybe with forms of knowledge which are not necessarily valued by conventional science. For example, the knowledge that nurses have, or the knowledge that teachers have, so practitioner knowledge. And taking this type of practitioner knowledge in dialogue with the more academic knowledge is something that can help innovation research, making innovations that are societally relevant and meaningful. So what would the pluralistic monitoring tools and practices that we will be seeing later this morning look like? I would say they are not going to look like the Frascati manual or the Asley manual or the innovation scoreboard, in which you see that some countries or some regions are doing more or less. It's not about more or less. If we are thinking about monitoring research for a strategic thinking, we need to have a variety of dimensions. So the first question is coming out of the traditional categories. We are not interested in disciplines. We are not necessarily interested in the traditional economic sectors. What are the categories that are of interest? Women's health or urban environment. So categories which contain a variety of inputs from sectors or from disciplines. So we need new categories. And artificial intelligence is going to help us to create to think about bodies of knowledge which are bounded in unconventional ways. The second thing is that we need to present this information for monitoring in ways that help us in thinking about potential different directions. And the third dimension that we need is to think about networks of how actors interacting are building the knowledge which is relevant in the knowledge space we discussed before and in the direction we are interested in following. What domains are relevant? So the idea, as I said, is moving away from the traditional categories and taking challenges such as reducing plastic or issues that have been under-researched like women's health, which are also socially embedded and therefore need a lot of social science, which is not traditionally included in the word health. Now, as I was saying, artificial intelligence can help in producing these new categories, but we have to be careful because artificial intelligence is dominated by mainstream discourse, and it is extremely important that there is participation by experts in informing these categories. The second is this idea that we have maps of or research landscapes, spaces of knowledge in which you can go in different directions. Here we have a study on obesity, and we have with bubbles the amount of research carried out in different directions of research. So a lot of research in metabolic processes, so this is the traditional biomedical research, but also about the diseases caused by obesity, how to treat it, lifestyle, the social environment. If there is a governmental initiative on obesity, what type of research are we, or what is the balance of the different types of research that we want to support? If we go to the social environment, we will come up with certain types of solutions. If we go for metabolic processes, you would come out with pharmacological solutions. But we know that obesity is highly correlated with poverty. So there is the possibility of doing public health interventions that are more socially oriented, which also have results. So the direction of research matters. And finally, there is the more traditional view in terms of who are the actors and how they interact, right? And this is usually shown in organizational terms, so different universities or centers, how they interact. But other aspects to take into account is whether these organizations belong to different institutions, how they are positioned in geographic terms, how they are positioned in the cognitive space. So in summary, my claim is that there is a shift in what is expected from science, technology, and innovation. Open science, open data offers a number of new possibilities, both in terms of making the data openly available, but also in terms of how these should be presented to audiences and facilitate interactions. And the new monitoring tools are interesting in helping us think in terms of new knowledge, in terms of knowledge domains which are not traditional, but that respond to societal challenges, in terms of then thinking the directions of innovation and facilitating the discussion of who are the actors that might be having synergies. And thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much. So I'm very happy to be here. Also, if you allow me a small comment. So I did my PhD in Bologna, so in Emilia-Romagna, and I continued my career here in Barcelona and I'm here from 13 here that I'm living and working here. So in some sense, I also part of this link with these two regions. And my role here is to, following what the vision that Ismael has transmitted us, try to, in some sense, accompany you in the transition between this very challenging perspective and specific case study that we will see later with the experience of Emilia-Romagna and Catalonia. Okay. So just a bit of historical excursus very quickly. So if some of you working in the field can remember that when all this reflection about monitoring and smart specialization strategy started in 2012 and 13, we have a lot of discussion about, okay, what we should measure, no? What we should be monitoring. And in that moment, the focus was really on indicators, in the sense of identifying quantitative indicators for measuring, in some sense, the capacity of expanding funding, no? In mainly European Regional Development Fund. So the idea was, okay, how we can build a type of indicators that can help us in monitoring that. Of course, combining this with the other elements like survey, participatory process, and also peer review, but with a strong accountability idea, okay? Where we are spending money, how money we are spending. And for doing that, the problem was really on, okay, we need to build this quantity indicator, but we have some issue. So the difficulty is how we can obtain the data, how we can integrate this data, especially because we are talking at different level of funding, because we are combining funding that are at the regional level, funding that are national level, funding at the European level. So we need to integrate this information. At the same time, we always have this difficulty of classifying the data. So as Ismail was presenting us before, when we are talking about science innovation, we don't have just one way of looking at the research innovation. We have different way of doing that. And we have really a problem in classifying this information and matching that with the smart specialization priorities. And also, one of the challenges was the fact of, okay, how we can communicate this in a useful way, how we can explore this information, considering this complexity. And in that context, we have seen several revolutions, we can say, happening. And the fact that we move from a more, let's say, static idea of having an entrepreneurial discovery process, like an operation that is more one shot. No, we can like have a picture of that. Then we shift to the idea that we have a more continuous process. So this was something happening constantly, no? In a complex system where you have different emergency happening constantly. And finally, today we are talking about an open discovery process in the sense that is continuing and is based on this interaction happening constantly. But of course, this as a challenge also in terms of the data that we can use, because we need to move toward a much more real-time system, not just a report based on a series of indicators that we can define just in a moment. In that context, as we have seen before, we have a series of things that have been happening, starting from 2010, but really, let's say, in 2015, we started having the opportunity of having more and more open data in this movement of open government data. So the growing availability of open data. So it's true that unfortunately we are still not in the scenario we would like to have. As we mentioned before, not all this data are always available, but more and more are becoming available. We know, for example, all the data of the European Commission are completely open. We know that more regions are doing that, in that Catalonia is an example, and also Emilia-Romagna an example, in making their data about the projects they are funding completely open. And we know that also other type of data are becoming more open. We talk about patents, we talk about publication, that we know that new movement are happening. We have new data more and more available. At the same time, we have also the evolution of the artificial intelligence methods, and in particular, all these techniques related with natural languages processing and deep learning. So the capacity, if we come back to the problem of the challenge of classifying information, now we have techniques that are able to extract and classify information looking at text. And this is becoming more and more powerful. Now we will see later concepts like topic modeling. We have systems that are able to classify information, also using different dimensions, and in some sense not substitute but facilitate the work that normally was done manually. So now we can use this system for improving the way in which we classify our data. And also, another very important element is the advent of information visualization, data visualization. So you know that in the last year, the advent of data journalism, information visualization has been growing. And now we have solutions that are extremely powerful and can be used for storytelling, but also for data exploration, and can be integrated in the solution we want to build. So the idea is that we had challenges, but we have some solution that has been happening, and we can take an advantage, we can profit from this solution. And if we come back to our initial challenges, so when we wanted to define these more quantitative indicators in the sense of classical input and output, we had, of course, this difficulty of obtaining more data, and we can say, okay, but open government is relevant, is helping that. So the first things that we can say, if you want to have more data, be the first in also sharing your data, and the other will do the same, and this will be a benefit for everyone. The second is, okay, we have a problem in classifying the data, but we can use new techniques for doing this, and assuming that the complexity is so that you can not have just one way of looking at it, but you need a multiverse of perspective for looking at your information, because at the end you want the possibility of understanding this data, combining this different point of view, as was explained before. And finally, the problem of communication and exploration can be solved with the use of these new power tools of information visualization. So, is the problem solved? So we are now in a second phase. Can we say that all the problems were solved? So if we take, for example, this report that was done by the Commission, the General Research Center, we can say that Emilia-Romagna and Catalonia, they were doing quite well, because both regions are mentioned as the best case study for monitoring smart specialization strategy. Of course, with differences, and we will see. And this is also interesting, because while Emilia-Romagna was really focusing on the definition of indicators for mapping the transition and the specialization, we can say that Catalonia was more interested in looking at the discovery process. So look at how the collaboration are going, what is emerging, how we can map what is constantly happening in our system. Of course, both of these systems have been quite successful, and our speaker will present later also how they are evolving in the direction. But what is interesting, they were mentioned as two of the case study from the European, two of the best practice from the European Commission. But of course, also, if the system were very well conceived, we can say that not all the problem are completely solved. We still have challenges. And in particular, we can say three are very relevant. First one, monitoring policy activity, collaborations, and results is not looking at impact in society and the environment. So we need to have this clear, as also has been presented before. It's not a direct connection. So monitoring outputs, monitoring collaboration is not per se an evaluation of impact. At the same time, what is really still partially missing is the fact that this system, the monitoring system conceived, can be very useful for certain aspects, like, for example, accountability, but not always for supporting more strategic and operational purposes. So how we can improve our system to support this type of challenge. And also, at the moment, most of these large language model using for training this natural language system and these deep learning methods are quite black box. So if you ask, but why is classifying this way? Trust me, the algorithm is say the truth. Is this the issue? So we have not the capacity of validate or check this, and we just need to trust an algorithm that is very deep. So how we can go in a direction where these methods can be more transparent and can be more understandable and also replicable. So in that context, we can also see that we are also assisting in a big change in the paradigm. So now we need also to integrate this idea of different way of monitoring and evaluating. As before has been explained, and we will see, especially in the case of Catalonia, the importance of the transformative innovation policy. So Ismael has introduced us these three models of innovation, how the third one is very relevant when we want to really tackle societal challenges, and we really need to think in way of systemic transformation. At the same time, we are assisting, and just taking the case of in Catalonia, just a new law of science happened at the end of last year. We are thinking about new way of evaluation. Some experiment has been done already in other countries with this idea of impact studies, and other methods are coming. So the idea that is not just quantitative indicator, but we can look at different way of assessing impact of science. And in that sense, all the movement of COARA, which is a coalition for advancing research assessment, or other type of initiative, for example, is telling you shouldn't use the ranking. You shouldn't use quantitative indicator unless it's really necessary, but you should use much more qualitative indicator. So it's really a discussion that is happening, creating a lot of reflection around the topic. So how we can integrate all these elements in our monitoring tools. And in that sense, we are aware that when we want to design this type of solution, we don't just have one target. We have different targets. So, of course, the policymaker, the policy offers are very relevant, but also we want to engage the research innovation actor, we want to engage intermediation institution, we want to engage private sector, and even communicate to the public, to the citizen in general. And each of them have different needs. And we need to think in solution that can go in this area of portfolio, and not just one solution for everything. And this is why we are now understanding that the solution is not one. We are talking about a portfolio solution. We are talking about toolkit. And we need to decide which are our priorities, who are our targets, how they want to have access to the data, at which level. We will see in the case study, in the different platforms we present later, that this is an issue that now are really integrated in this platform. Why wasn't the case before? Well, before we just have one solution. But now we are understanding that we need to think in solution at different level. And this is why it's very difficult when we have a solution interested to support in the local stakeholder like company, they are interested in certain things, or the policymaker who is just looking at the big number and they just need a different type of information. And finally, very, very, very important, the capacity building. So we need to integrate this element in the sense that the public administration and also the actor participating in the smart civilization studies, they have to be also trained in using the system, understanding how they can be used, and also making this system own for them, because in this way they can create a new capacity. They cannot just delegate this capacity to a software or a tool or an external provider. They need to make this as an internal expertise because they need to build new competence, they need to explore new things. And this is very important. And finally, when we talk about the challenge of AI, of course, one of the challenges is to make possible to have humans in the loop, no? And make AI more explainable and more replicable. And in that sense, we see that we have a huge opportunity where experts can work using these tools for helping in making these tools better. Talking about Emilia-Romagna and talking about Italy, probably you are aware of the problem that we had with ChatGPT that was forbidden in Italy for now, not now, but for forbidden last month, exactly for that, for problem about GDPR, about how explainable are these models, etc. But it doesn't mean that we should say, okay, we don't use these tools. We need to see how we can use this tool, but in a much more open and transparent perspective, engaging and involving the expert. So finally, we were saying, okay, we still have some challenge, and for what is related with the monitoring policy activity versus impact, one option is to really work in integrating what is now coming up in this new reflection about impact assessment, which is very relevant, and we shouldn't just avoid it. So if this is happening, it's really creating a big reflection. We should find a way to integrate that when we talk about monitoring science and innovation. At the same time, when we want to facilitate more strategic but also operational use of the system, we need to think in systems that can be conceived for different users. So we have a portfolio of solutions, not just one solution. And this is very important, this phase of design, co-design with the stakeholder, which type of requirement we want to integrate. And finally, the fact that if we want to make artificial intelligence less black box, we need to work together in integrating this and not just blocking it, because it's not the solution, just stopping it, because it's very difficult. So, for the future, this is why we see that these elements are fundamental, together with the capacity building, for the new monitoring system, for this new programming period, and this is partially what we are going to see now, because the idea is to try to integrate this element in this new solution. Finally, just for closing my speech, as I was mentioning before, talking about AI, we need to talk about ChatGPT, OpenAI. We can say, okay, we don't consider it. But we know that also open solutions exist. So you have community that are developing models like ChatGPT, which at the end are large language models that can be trained for informing this algorithm, which are open. And the challenge is to contribute to that. So use our data set, use the expert for tagging, for classifying information that can be used for training this model. So again, it's like for open data. If we want to have more open data, we need to participate in open data. If we want to have better model, we need to participate in this movement. We cannot just stop and wait. So I stop here. Thank you very much for your time, and I let the floor to Giorgio Moretti from Arter, who will present the experience of Emilia-Romagna. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you to Tatiana for the invitation. We know very well, I mean, the monitoring system of Catalonia, it has been also a source of inspiration for us somehow. We have many things in common. We have quite different RIS3. We have also some difference in the monitoring system, as you will see. We have in common other things, for example, the same technical partner, Siris, of course. And I think we have in common also a common goal, that is to develop a platform useful for understanding what the development of research and innovation in our region, and also to make available a platform useful for taking decision, hopefully. So I think it's important to start, that Marina started presenting our innovation ecosystem, because this is the basis on which our RIS3 has been designed. A strategy that is the result of a broad and inclusive process, participation process, co-design process that involved all the actors and the networks of our ecosystems. And we took into consideration, of course, the outcomes of the previous programming period, the results, the research results, but also the monitoring system results. And we took into consideration also the evolution of technology, of the markets, and the innovation system itself, because many things happened, some relevant changes. For example, the constitution of clusters. Clusters were born during the the programming period 2014-2020, thanks to the RIS3. So all this led to a new approach, more challenge-based, less technology-driven, and mainly focused on the two big challenges of digital transition and green transformation. According to the new approach, more challenge-based, as I said, RIS3 still maintains a focus of the main industrial sectors. We have 8 industrial sectors, most of them based on manufacturing. That is one of the big characteristics of our region. But the priorities are declined in a completely new way. Cross-thematic sectors, we identified, thanks to this co-design process, 15 thematic areas, and I would like to point out that some of these priorities are not technological driven, as I said, which included some completely new issues for our research policy. For example, if you look at 15, cross-sector thematic areas, number 14 and 15, you see that they deal not too much with technology, but mainly to social issues. So, given to this new approach and the articulation of the strategy, we also had to rethink the monitoring model that we have implemented in the previous programming period. And this was necessary not only because we have a different articulation of the priorities, of course, but also because we realized that a new model is necessary because quantitative indicators are not enough. Bernardo explained very well just before. We followed at the beginning in a very precise way what were the suggestions from the Commission, so output indicators, context indicators, and so on, but it's not enough. We need a portfolio of solutions, so a tailor-made solution for each kind of users, for each kind of needs. So the first step was to identify the target users. And for this, we looked, of course, at the risk governance model, public administration, both political and technical level, the ecosystem actors, as Marina presented, university research centers, but also private companies, and the ecosystem networks, mainly clusters, technopoles, high technology networks, and more in general, intermediary agents. And finally, and hopefully, we know it's very difficult, but citizens also could be a target of our monitoring system. We identified some key elements: open data, integration of new data. We are looking for new sources of data, open as possible. We have moved from a classification of the project automatically. This is a very important issue of the new system. Until now, we had a lot of colleagues from Arthur that classified one by one each project, each research project, tagging each project according to the topic. And then we moved, I will explain better later what we have done, what techniques we are using for automatic classification of the project. We need new visualization for making tailor-made indicators as possible, and we need also specific insights for example, for policy evaluation or for mapping needs. But I think that one of the most innovative elements of the new monitoring system is the access to single data, to microdata, because the new system, the new platform offers the possibility not only to see indicators, of course, but also to use the system for in-depth analysis and identify specific projects and specific beneficiaries, who is working on subjects, who are the organization mainly specialized in specific topics. We adopted also in this case a co-design process, and following interviews, focus group with potential users. The first step was identifying the needs, user needs, and on the basis of them, we defined the functional specification of the systems, the types of data to be used, which kind of indicators, which kind of sources, and of course we define priorities. Not everything could be done with a given resource in a given time, so we define steps for the development of the different part of the monitoring system. This is a process ongoing for the next years. And then mock-ups, product development, testing, and the final version that will be released. The system is ready. I will show some screenshots. We don't have time to look at the system, but we will present it in Bologna the 8th of June during a big event, Research to Business. All of you are invited, of course. It's a 2 days of event for an exhibition of our innovation ecosystem with a national and international mission. And thanks to this design process, we defined what Bernardo said before, a portfolio of products. 3 different products addressing different needs and different potential users. So the first one is panoramic. We can translate it with overview, some very few indicators of about R&I projects financed to organization based in Emilia-Romagna, with the distribution of the projects among the 8 industrial sectors and the 15 cross-thematic sectors, and this is addressed to a very general public, mainly to S3 politically involved in the governance, subjects involved in the governance, mainly political level and governance level, and it's a they are web pages with a descriptive text, because we think that it's important to have also a pedagogical function, to inform the public. It's more for communication purposes. The second product is about accountability and analysis, with more detailed indicators and with a function for searching and filtering data. And this is a dashboard, a cruscotto in Italian means translation of dashboard, and which can be used also in this case by policy makers and technicians, but also for many of the actors of our ecosystem, and in particular from Arter itself. And finally, what I think is a real new feature of the system, a repository who allows to identify specific projects, a single project and single actors, for identify, for example, who is working on specific topics, who are the organization most involved in specific domains, what are the relationships between them inside and outside Emilia-Romagna. As I mentioned before, the classification of the project is another, the second one most important feature, I think, of our new system. As I told you, up to now, we did it manually. We passed on to an automatic system based on semantic technologies algorithm. Each project included in the database can be classified into one or more technological industrial sectors and cross-thematic areas. So there is a tagging quite important, and this is not possible to do manually, also because it takes a long time. It's very expensive in terms of time, but also not so precise. So Sorry, there is a slide missing, maybe. Okay, anyway. So the process was to create samples of documents, samples of project text and publications that have been classified through automatic classifiers after we have extracted from the RIS3 the key concepts. This first step of classification automatical has been validated by our expert in the specific domains. So classifiers have been trained further, and this is an iterative process, and this we are testing. We are doing now the final test, and the results are very good, very appropriate, I can say. So, as I said, we have no time, of course, to show the system, the online system, and just a few screenshots to have a view of how also is organized the platform. This is panoramic, the overview. As you can see, only two main indicators, number of projects and euros investments in the projects, with the distribution among the different cross-industrial sections and thematic areas. You see many text. At the moment, it's only in Italian, but we are going to translate also in English. Text for describing what are these cross-sectors, thematic priorities, and the industrial sectors. You can have information about the number of projects linked to others, so which are the relationship between the different topics. And okay, this is Cruscotto, the dashboard. You see, we have a lot of we have more indicators, especially for the projects financed directly by the region, because in this case we have availability of more data. And there is a long list of filters that can be applied, and so indicators are given according to the filter that the user applies. Also, in this case, we can see the distribution among the industrial sectors and priority areas. It's possible also to show them in a different way using bars or table, cross-table, so a lot of features, very tailored according to the needs of every potential user. Finally, the repository. I thought that, in my opinion, it's the most powerful tool of for our job, for our daily job, of Arter, but also for many of the stakeholders of our innovation ecosystem. The goal is who is working on what. The name and the surname, the name of the organization. We don't have the name of the researchers, but only of the organization. We include, I didn't say, but it's important to say, we include all the projects financed at the regional, national, and European level, in which there is involved at least one partner, one organization from Emilia-Romagna. So the way of searching is quite similar, filters, but also a bar for free search, free text search. For each project, according to the filters applied, we have a list of titles of project, and we can have we can see more information about each project, the abstract, the partners, the amount of the project, and very interesting on the left, a very interesting tool that allows us to identify the project closer to the one we are looking. So we choose a project, and this graph show a dot. The bigger dot is my project, the project that I'm looking, and the closer the other dots are, the similar the project is. So it's very useful for identifying who can be involved, for example, in development of new projects according to this topic. So it's a very powerful instrument. Finally, open data is one of the keywords of this morning. All this is available in an open data format. Every table, every graph can be also in Cruscotto can be downloaded, but also the repository can be downloaded through an interface, very easy. Everyone can choose the fields and download in Excel format for any kind of reuse. Also, this is a very new step in the considering the previous monitoring system. So this is the last one. Thank you for your attention.
Pleasure to be here today and to share the work we are doing in Catalonia and that we have been doing in Catalonia for the last 6 years, exploring and opening new ways for monitoring smart specialization strategies with open data, semantic techniques, and visualization tools. It's also a pleasure to be here with Emilia-Romagna region, with Mariana and Giorgio. Oops. There is a strong connection between the two regions, as the Secretary already said. In the last year, we have been engaged in different European projects together, and we are working in smart specialization strategy also. And with Siris Academic, it's the company with whom we have developed the platform we are presenting today. So the presentation from Bernardo is complementary with what I will explain. Also, what I will explain is complementary with what Ismael explained, since with him we have had long discussions about the challenges of monitoring research and innovation with open data. My approach will be quite different because I will take the perspective from policymakers, and my presentation will focus on why the Catalan government is working with open data and semantic techniques to monitor smart specialization. And I will focus on what we are doing to develop monitoring systems that are more meaningful for public policies. So before entering into that, this is not the last one presentation. It's Marta, it's not the, okay, I will change. No problem. There were some small changes in the slides. I go one step backwards and introduce how we understand smart specialization in Catalonia. I wanted to use one of the slides of Ismael that I entered in my presentation, because he has already explained the framework, the conceptual framework for our smart specialization strategy. It's the framework of transformative innovation policy. Since 2020, we are working with Transformative Innovation Policy Consortium with researchers in Europe and also here in Catalonia, with Johann Schott, which is the father of the Transformative Innovation Policy Framework that introduced Ismael. We are working with this approach. This approach, as Ismael said, looking how research and innovation is transforming or is addressing societal challenges, is not mainstreaming yet, but the good news is that the European Commission is already working with this approach. So we have some words here from Commissioner Maria Gabriel that it's saying that transformative innovation is not only about research and innovation, it requires many more things. It requires clear direction at political level, it requires place-based strategies, it requires design tools, entrepreneurial actors with the right skills, institutional capacity, and a culture open to policy experimentation and risk-taking. Because, as the Commissioner says, innovation, of course, has transformative force, is capable of providing solutions to societal challenges that we are facing today. But this journey from innovation to transformation is not straightforward, it's not without pitfalls. It requires, what I say, many other elements. Here in this picture is how we can visualize smart specialization strategies. Smart specialization strategies, if we see on the left side of the slide, they are local based, and this is very important because things are always happening in the territory. Research, innovations, competitiveness is always happening somewhere localized in the territory. And are the local stakeholders, the regional stakeholders, the ones who are defining their needs, their priorities. But they have to do it looking at the big picture. It's not that we can only concentrate on our own objectives or challenges. They are always related to global ones. And this is why smart specialization are about discovery process of how we understand the challenges that are relevant for the territory, for the people living in the territory, and how they are connected to the global challenges. And this is the things that we will need to measure, no? Here it's our smart specialization strategy in a nutshell, we could say. As I say, the focus is on the territory. Research and innovation has to respond to regional and local needs to have an impact on the quality of life of people. But at the same time, research and innovation has to contribute to EU priorities. This is to a transition to a greener, more resilient, fair, socioeconomic model. These are big words, but this is the context of all the strategies financed with European funds. And of course, technologies play a very important role on that. But transformative research and innovation are much more than technology. The focus is on engaging public administrations, because public administrations are a very important actor in innovation and in transformation. The focus is also on research and innovation actors, of course, but also on companies and also on civil society, as Ismael also said. No? We are, in our smart specialization strategy, we are working with the concept of shared agendas, engaging these different kind of actors, addressing together the challenges that really matter related to food, energy, water, mobility, health, to social inclusion, to gender equality. This is the real issues in which smart specializations are focusing in the new period. So if we want to measure all that and how is the contribution of research and innovation to all that, to monitor that, it's rather complex, no? And as Bernardo also said, we are still far from having a complete solution to this challenge. And the last years, and now we are still developing new tools and approaches. And as I say, we are working with different researchers in Catalonia and in Europe, and also with the European Commission and the OECD. So our monitoring system combines different sources of information and types of analysis to better understand how research and innovation in Catalonia are supporting the articulation of sustainable value chains, the emergence of new business models. We are working, we need business models because without companies it's impossible to make the transition, but we need that they contribute to address these challenges that we have as society. They need to provide also environmental value and social value. It's not enough producing only economic value. And we are also trying to understand the transformation of socio-technical systems, no? How we are providing, how we are consuming water, energy, mobility, health, food. These are the relevant points of monitoring a smart specialization strategy. So these transformative processes are very complex. They involve very interrelated changes in very different areas, because we are talking about production systems, technologies, market regulations, rare preferences, infrastructure, cultural expectations. So we need to include, of course, the traditional output and result indicators when measuring things, but we also, of course, we need to include official data, foresight reports. They are very relevant. But we need to explore and to work further in the two items of the second row. No? How can we use open data to monitor these kind of processes? And the important question is, how can we collect these relevant qualitative data, which are very often not structured or semi-structured data? How can we collect them, how we combine them, and how can we use them to monitor these kind of processes? No? Today, the session is about open data, so I will focus on this one, and particularly on the RIS3-MCAT platform. The RIS3-MCAT platform. Why did we start this project? The origin of this project is in 2017. And the initial reason was that we wanted to have a better understanding of how EU-funded research and innovation were actually contributed and could contribute to address the societal challenges in Catalonia. Since I said our smart specialization strategy embraces a systemic approach, so for the beginning, we were aware that we needed to develop a pluralistic monitoring approach, and this is a word from Ismael that I have taken from your presentation, and I'm going to use it as a pluralistic monitoring approach. This is a very visual word. Because we wanted to understand how multi-actor collaborative networks are addressing these challenges in Catalonia. So we wanted to understand also the transnational collaboration networks of Catalan actors, and we wanted also to identify emerging trends, blind spots, and actors beyond the usual suspects working on these regional challenges. Also important, benchmarking, because we need to compare what is happening in Catalonia with what is happening in other regions, and we also wanted that this platform would be useful for the research and innovation actors of our ecosystem to help them to take more informed decisions. For example, to identify potential partners for EU projects, to detect emerging trends, etc. Here, very fast, in this slide, I have tried to visualize the journey for developing the platform from 2017 until today. It has been a long journey. And during these years, as Bernardo has explained, the possibilities of open data, artificial intelligence, semantic techniques have improved exponentially. And we could say that the technological process has been much faster than the process of opening data. It's still difficult to have all the necessary data or all the data we would like to have. Until now, the platform we are going to show now integrates only data from Horizon 2020 and now Horizon Europe, and from the smart specialization projects financed with European regional funds. But as we see in this other slide, we are already exploring how to integrate projects and data from calls and from projects financed by the Spanish government, by FEDETI, by Carlos III, or by the general administration, because they are a relevant part to understand our ecosystem. No? We say that we can see in this picture that more or less, no, I had another, yeah, because this is not the newest presentation, but in the other presentation we could see that there are more projects from central government, but the financing is like similar for RIS3-MCAT and for the projects financed by central government. So we're going to increase the data provided in this platform with 3,000 projects in the next weeks. So, in the coffee break, after the coffee break, Marta and Josep will explain the new version of this platform and with the functionalities in detail. But I'm just going to provide a few insights, since the second part will be in Catalan and many of the people connected now in YouTube will not be able to understand. So I will just provide some insights of this platform. This is the main view of the platform, showing us the collaboration networks among Catalan research and innovation stakeholders. The platform right now integrates almost 5,000 projects with an investment higher than 3,000 million euro, and we are mapping more than 1,500 Catalan entities collaborating with more than 16,000 European partners. And with this tool, we can explore all the collaborations, all the projects, all the topics, searching by keywords, by SDGs, by S3 priorities, by topics. We can have many kinds of collaborations and searches. As the secretary also said, we have had until now more than 5,000 unique users from 73 countries. Of course, most of them are not regular, but we have some regular users from universities, from research centers, and also even from companies and public administration, of course, because they are using this platform to elaborate reports, to do benchmarking analysis, and also, as I say, to identify potential partners. I am happy to share with you today that since last week, this is very new, we have a new visualization representing a semantic map of all the projects we have in the platform. Projects in this map, all the 5,000 projects, they are placed according to their semantic similarity, and this facilitates the identification of similar projects and a view of their proximity between different thematics. And it's interesting to see also the overlap between different taxonomies. No? This is explorative work that we are doing with the latest advances in technologies and semantic techniques. And I have to say that it's not that we seek 100% certainty at granular level. Our interest is on identifying emerging trends, emerging dynamics, synergies, complementarities, specialization patterns at systems level. It's not about looking, we can look at the different actors, at the different projects, but the interesting is to look at the system, no? And of course, I invite you to enter the platform because it's already open. And I invite you also to explore the possibilities and of course also to provide us with your feedback because it's work in progress. In this image, for example, we have selected the projects classified under the S3 priority of energy transition and natural resources. And as you can see or can sense, because it's difficult to read from there, so we can see that the solutions that address the energy transition are distributed among many different fields of knowledge. So without transdisciplinary approaches, it's not possible to address societal challenges, as Ismail already said, no? So one of the functions of this visualization of this tool is to raise awareness of the fact that we need transdisciplinary approach to address these challenges. No? It's about the need of breaking silos and articulate more transdisciplinary innovation collaborative networks. And these networks, of course, as I say, needs to include public administration, companies, and civil society because it's about technology, but it's also about regulation and about changing some rules or some ways of doing things and our way of living also. Here's another example. The platform also allows to explore the SDGs. All the projects are automatically classified by SDGs. And for example, here we have the example of sustainable cities and communities. Here, for example, no, this is the health, sorry, because they changed. Okay, this is with health projects, the same. As in the other case, we see that all the projects related with health, most of them are here in this part of the map. But we see that if we want to address the health challenges, as Ismail explained with his example, the knowledge is distributed among many different fields, and this is something that we need to take into account. Here we have the example of the SDG, Sustainable Cities and Communities. And these are kind of examples of what our tool allows us to do. For example, if we look at the SDGs, we see that the main actor in Catalonia, we are talking about research and innovation projects, is Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. We see that our main partner is Italy, and from countries, I mean. We see that the main foreign partner is the Universitat from Bologna, for example. And we can see the cloud of words identifying these SDGs. And in this picture, we can see all the Catalan stakeholders working on projects on this issue. We also can enter by actor. No? For example, we have an example of EURECAT. EURECAT is in the picture. All its collaborative networks, they have 198 projects with more than 1,500 partners from Europe. These are the kind of projects they are working on. These are their main partners, and we can enter, as also Giorgio has explained in his case, we can also enter at the project level here. This part, we have the explanation of the projects. So the 5,000 projects can be accessed and consulted. So we complementary with the platform, because it's not only about the platform, we are also in parallel exploring in detail emerging areas of interest, because this is what artificial intelligence and semantic analysis allow us. No? We have, for example, analyzed with artificial intelligence the domain of circular bioeconomy, the challenge of plastics in the sea. We have also explored the dimensions of the artificial intelligence. And if we have the data from this kind of, from all the projects being in Catalonia, and also the relations with all the partners in Europe. So we can explore, for example, in artificial intelligence, which actors in Catalonia are working on that, with which partners in European regions, in which kind of fields of knowledge, and in which kind of challenges also, or SDGs. And these kind of exercises are really very helpful when we are talking about public policies and how to reorient also priorities. Here is another example. We made a detailed analysis on health, and Ismael was explaining also this, or putting this example. No? Women's health is something that we don't have many data about. This challenge, we all know that health investment prioritize the issues related with men and less the issues related with women. We could say, put it in that way. So it's important to understand how research is dealing with women's health, no? What kind of projects, what kind of actors are working on that, there are differences or not. So because many times we listen or we read in the newspaper or in the news, there are many people talking about this challenge, but the real data to understand really what is happening and the details, there is no information about that. And with this kind of tools, we can enter and we can dive in this kind of challenges, and we have more understanding, and we can talk with more based on evidence. Another thing that we are trying to do also, for example, when we have classified the domain of artificial intelligence or the circular bioeconomy, then we can understand the connections of our stakeholders with European networks. This is some kind of exercises we are already also doing, and we can also map if Catalonia is more or less specialized than other regions in this kind of research topics. And just to end, this is my final slide, and this is not the topic for today, but I think it's very important to underline that open data are only part of the solution when we talk about monitoring smart specialization strategies oriented to address societal challenges. So open data is a part, but we are exploring different tools, methodologies, and approach like the ones you are seeing in the slide. As I say at the beginning, we are collaborating with the Transformative Innovation Policy Consortium and also with the Research Center Ingenio to develop new kind of indicators for transformative outcomes. We are also exploring with Reimagined Futures about how systems mapping can help us to move forward systemic approaches, engaging all relevant stakeholders in the identification of the challenges and the actions needed. Data lakes is something also we are starting to explore. We are going to do a pilot center in Bages, in the shared agenda of Bages. And also we are working together with universities, with research centers. We have also Xavi from the Research and Innovation Department here. We are working with them to collect and to visualize relevant data about transformative innovation, about collaboration networks, and also about technological capacities. And I could say that one of the things which characterizes our smart specialization strategy is this systemic and transformative approach. But it's a systemic approach that is based on a solid and robust conceptual framework, and also on solid methodologies that we have developed together with researchers, with policymakers, also from the European Commission and from the OECD, and we are working in a continuous action research project because, as Ismael said also, and also Bernardo, there are many questions still open, and we need to explore and continue exploring this new kind of monitoring, the new generation of monitoring systems that can take all the advantages that the artificial intelligence and open data provide, but at the same time, working also to help that things happen in favor of society, in favor of the people, of the territories. And this is something that is still open, but we are working on that. And with that, I would finish my presentation, and then I will invite Ismael and Bernardo and Giorgio to join me if you have any questions, because we have not allowed any questions, so many, if some one of you has questions, we can have them now. They should be here, the chairs, but they are not. If there is any question, Karan has the question from the people connected online.
Yes, we have one question from people attending this conference through YouTube. It's from Jordi Puig, and he asks, the same line of practitioners, of this term of practitioners that Mr. Ràfols introduced before, can the RIS3-MCAT platform also specifically identify such partners in European projects, practitioners and users, civil society groups?
Okay, the platform integrates data from 5,000 projects, and for this project, it's possible to identify which partners are in there. So if you look at the Catalan ecosystem, you look for a partner, you can see, for example, as I showed the slide from Eurecat, you can select Eurecat, then see all the partners in Catalonia, all the projects, and when you enter in each project, you can also analyze all the European partners they are working with. So the visualization is only about Catalan partners and about the projects, but when you enter in each actor and in each project, you can identify all the partners. Yes, and if you can also, in the second part, Marta and Josep will explain it better, and will explain also how you can also look for specific regions, for specific provinces in other parts of Europe, and identify which partners are working with Catalan partners. Yes, I think that one of the main uses of the platform is to allow Catalan stakeholders to identify potential partners for European projects. But it's not like talking together or making contact, it's about exploring possibilities.
So the answer is yes, practitioners can be found out as far as they participate in projects. Now, we come from a system that was very academic focused, and maybe 30 years ago there would have been very few practitioners. But more and more there are calls, and this is something that the European Commission is emphasizing a lot, that universities should engage with civil society organizations and with companies and with public administrations in projects. So to the extent that projects become more plural in the type of actors that they engage, there's going to be more practitioners. One example that I pose, the case of nurses, for example. I think it was 5 years ago that the Department of Health of Catalonia made a specific call for nurses, so that there is research by nurses in the health system of Catalonia, and therefore these are people which can have a key role as intermediaries between research and the health system.
Just one element that already Tatiana commented, but just in case if someone is interested, the system also includes already a classification. So if you are a company, if you are a university, if you are a social organization, if you are public administration, you can search for this information directly.
We have another question from Enric Fuster to Ismael. Do you see a change in how the European Commission, member states and other regions are approaching innovation monitoring?
To be honest, I have not been following details. I looked recently to the European Innovation Scoreboard. I think, so which is carried out by people at the University of Maastricht, some people I know, and there are hints of movements towards taking into account the notion of direction. For example, in the last European Innovation Scoreboard, which was the one mentioned by the Doctoressa, there is now one element, 2 or 3 indicators, which are about innovation in the environment, which did not exist 5 years ago. I don't know if 2 years ago, but I'm sure 5 years ago, there was no innovation indicators specifically about the environment. So in this extent, there are small pieces. But at this high level, the European Commission, I am not aware of this type of mapping. But I think Bernardo may know better than I do.
Yeah, I guess that is really an open issue. It's not something that is clearly defined, but I guess that some work is going in the direction. So I think that we will assist at some change.
I think the European Commission has opened new ways with the Partnership for Regional Innovation, and also they are working with these innovation valleys. In this kind of new instruments, they are trying to introduce this concept on this approach of transformative innovation policy, but there is still far a way to go with relating monitoring systems, because when we look at how they are monitoring this kind of processes, they are using traditional indicators because it's easy to measure, and they need to have like these homogenic sources for all the regions, for all the countries, and they are still using this traditional indicator.
And the other place where there is signs of change is the OECD. So some colleagues of us working in innovation studies in Paris, in the Eiffel University, have now been hired in the OECD to look into transformative change. If there are no questions, let me take the liberty of emphasizing, you know, from those here people is from Catalonia and Emilia-Romagna, I'm coming from Leiden. Let me say that I think this type of monitoring is quite unique. So this type of detailed, fine-grained monitoring, I see it as an experiment, and I see it as a really interesting experiment. And in this sense, I would like to emphasize that we are discussing today state-of-the-art methods, and both in the sense of the artificial intelligence for classifying projects into new categories, such as women health or such as blue growth. I think it was one of your cases. So this is unique. And also, I think the way in which the tools are being co-developed between the consultancy and the administration, and building capacity in how to use these tools. I think this is quite unique. And well, I'm really excited, and I see this as an extremely positive development.
May I say one more thing? As I said before, we have been inspired somehow by the monitoring system of Catalonia, and the topic modeling, one of the new feature of the system that Tatiana presented, is one of the development we are thinking about it. I think that with the series next year, more or less at the middle time of implementation of the strategy 2024, we are going to do such an exercise because we want to, we did it also in the previous programming period at the middle, more or less, of the implementation of the strategy. We are going to revise the strategy through a participation process, and monitoring, of course, it's very important. So we did, we defined the thematic priorities according to, we did it 3 years ago, 2020. Maybe next year the world will change then, so we need to do this, and this can be done. Topic modeling is one of the things, I think it's one of the powerful instrument to trying to understand where are going science and technology. So, okay, thank you for the inspiration again.
So, I don't know, if there are not questions, then maybe we have the coffee break outside, and then we can come back with the second part, which will be more focused on the Catalan platform, on understanding the different functionalities, the use cases, and we will change to Catalan for this part. Okay, we have 15 minutes. We bring something, eat something, and come back, because then we will finish on time.
coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça, ela, menina que vem e que passa, num doce balanço, caminho do mar. Moça do corpo dourado do sol de Ipanema, o seu balançado é mais que um poema, é a coisa mais linda que eu já vi passar. Ah, porque estou tão sozinho? Ah, porque tudo é tão triste? A beleza que existe, a beleza que não é só minha, que também passa sozinha. Ah, se ela soubesse que quando ela passa, o mundo sorrindo se enche de graça e fica mais lindo por causa do amor.
Molt bé, si de cas anem començant ja la segona part de la sessió, que tal com havia comentat la Tatiana abans, ara aquesta sessió es centrarà més en explicar, en entrar més en detall el que és la plataforma de monitoratge que fem servir aquí a Catalunya. El Josep, des de Siris, us explicarà una miqueta les novetats i les funcionalitats i després us hem preparat una sèrie de 4 casos pràctics de com fer cerques que esperem que us sigui d'ajuda i us il·lustrin una miqueta la manera de funcionar la plataforma. Així de cas, li deixo la paraula a Josep i comencem.
Bones a tothom. Efectivament, nosaltres, tant jo des de Siris per la part de la gestió de les dades com la Marta des del Departament d'Estratègia Econòmica ha proveït més la part de requeriments. Hem estat participant els dos en el desenvolupament d'aquesta plataforma. Com ha dit la Tatiana, aquesta plataforma, tot i que ja té anys, en els últims mesos hem desenvolupat noves funcionalitats, per tant, que ja estan publicades, però s'ha de dir que falten algunes petites modificacions i optimitzacions per la part tant de comunicació de xarxa com de la computació de la plataforma en si. Jo faré una petita introducció al que és el funcionament i com està pensada la plataforma. La manera de la que ha sigut desenvolupada aquesta plataforma és hi ha unes dades que són bàsicament projectes, tenim les dues vistes principals, la xarxa d'entitats i el mapa de projectes, que ens ensenyen aquestes dues entitats de dades, diguem-ne aquests dos punts d'entrada, que són els projectes i les entitats que hi participen. Després tenim els indicadors i els mòduls d'informació, que són el que tenim a baix i aquest mòdul d'àmbits d'actuació, i després, a dalt a l'esquerra, tenim els mòduls funcionals que serveixen per ajudar a filtrar, cercar i descarregar la informació. Bàsicament, mitjançant allò, filtrem els elements que volem que apareguin a la plataforma. Només entrar, connectar-se a la plataforma, podem veure la xarxa d'entitats. Aquesta representa i inclou les organitzacions que participen en els projectes tant europeus com catalans i apareixen units per aquestes línies que representen la força de les col·laboracions que tenen entre elles. Però aquí només apareixen les organitzacions catalanes. Si anem a dalt, podem canviar el mapa de projectes, que ens ensenyarà aquesta innovació que s'ha fet últimament, on es representen els projectes disseminats en l'espai segons la semblança semàntica, segons com s'assemblen entre ells, i classificats segons color i representats per les etiquetes, les diferents, a quina temàtica representen ells. Molt bé. Després de veure aquestes dues vistes, tindrem el mòdul informatiu de sota, alhora, reforçant això, agafa la informació que hi ha filtrada a dalt i dona informació extra sobre les entitats que hi apareixen. La primera, hi ha primer una línia d'indicadors i després 4 tabs, 4 pestanyes que donen diferents informacions. La primera va sobre els àmbits d'actuació, aquests àmbits prioritaris del RIS3-MCAT. La primera mostra una distribució per quantitat de projectes segons àmbit i després, si posem el ratolí sobre alguns d'aquests àmbits, el núvol de paraules claus canviarà segons les paraules claus que succeeixen més. La segona pestanya inclou un rànquing de les organitzacions amb més nombre segons el nombre de projectes que tenen, les entitats catalanes, i el rànquing segons el finançament. Després, unes altres de les funcionalitats que s'inclouen és una mica un estudi més profund dels socis de l'exterior. Primer tenim una llista del rànquing de països amb més col·laboracions. En aquest rànquing podem clicar en cada un d'aquests països i anar baixant per regions, o sigui, si cliquem a Alemanya podrem tindre les regions i si tornem a clicar en una d'aquestes regions podrem arribar fins a les províncies que inclouen aquestes regions. Llavors es pot veure clarament amb qui s'ha col·laborat més o menys. L'altre indicador, un altre cop, ensenya un rànquing d'entitats que si cliquem en el toggle amb el nombre de projectes i nombre de finançament podrem veure quina és la quantitat de finançament per a aquestes organitzacions. I finalment tenim la llista de projectes que inclou la llista de projectes. Cada una de les columnes és filtrable, es pot cercar per text i ordenar segons es vulgui. M'he deixat una cosa, a la pestanya anterior es pot descarregar, si mirem a l'esquerra, podem veure un link per descarregar tota la informació sobre aquests col·laboradors exteriors. L'últim mòdul d'informació és aquest element fixe superior que ens mostra un cop més aquesta distribució segons projecte, però a més afegeix la funcionalitat que si cliquem qualsevol d'aquesta llista d'àmbits es filtrarà automàticament a la plataforma per projectes o per les organitzacions que han participat en projectes d'algun d'aquests àmbits. I per últim, i potser igual d'important, hi ha els mòduls funcionals. Primerament tenim la funcionalitat de filtratge. Aquí apareixen la majoria de les taxonomies i elements importants d'aquesta plataforma. En cap moment d'aquesta presentació s'ha parlat dels anys, però ja des de 2014 fins ara, i podem triar quins anys apareixen, o els àmbits d'actuació, aquestes temàtiques que han aparegut, que hem trobat amb el procediment d'intel·ligència artificial de topic modeling, i els ODS que han sigut des del principi de la plataforma. També podem trobar-hi l'eina de cerca, que permet buscar segons les paraules claus dels projectes i les organitzacions que han participat en aquests. Conjuntament amb els filtres, les eines de cerca permeten fer les cerques més compostes amb això, aquesta organització en aquests anys al voltant d'aquests ODS concrets. Per últim, si estem en la xarxa d'entitats, aquest tercer botó ens permetrà decidir com volem que representin en l'espai les entitats, les organitzacions que apareixen en aquesta xarxa d'entitats. Es pot triar per província, per tipus d'organització o segons la col·laboració que hi ha entre les entitats. Si anem al mapa de projectes, es podrà triar quins elements volem incloure en la visualització, que en aquest cas estem parlant de les... Podem triar, aquí no es veu massa bé, crec que sí. Podem triar si volem que apareixin les etiquetes, si volem que apareixin les corbes de nivell que podem veure, que representen com de troncals, en quin punt troncals apareixen de l'àmbit, apareixen els projectes, podrem triar que apareixin o que no apareixin. I ja els últims dos grups d'elements són els que ajuden a visualitzar per fer el focus in, focus out i recol·locar la pantalla i, bastant important, l'eina de descàrrega d'Excel. Sembla que tampoc apareix aquí, però a la part superior esquerra hi ha dos botons, que hi ha el botó per accedir a la pantalla de consultes amb Sparkle, que ens permetrà, això mitjançant el llenguatge Sparkle, fer queries compostes utilitzant l'ontologia que hem desenvolupat per la plataforma i el document d'ajuda per si hi ha un manual d'usuari per fer-ne ús. I ara dono pas a la Marta.
Molt bé. Doncs ara aplicar una miqueta tota aquesta part teòrica a la part pràctica, que és el que farem servir tots nosaltres que estem aquí. Us hem preparat 4 exemples de 4 possibles casos que ens podem trobar també una miqueta segons el rol que tinguem, si som un agent del sistema, si som un policy maker, una miqueta així variats perquè us ajudin a entendre com funciona la plataforma i quina informació de valor podeu obtenir. El primer cas seria aquest. Imaginem que qualsevol de nosaltres que estem en aquesta sala avui som un agent més del sistema de recerca i innovació i ens interessa saber per una determinada temàtica quins són els actors i els agents més rellevants que tenim allà per explorar possibles col·laboracions que podem fer. Aleshores, ens anem aquí a la plataforma. I, per exemple, anem a mapa de projectes i filtrem per una temàtica. Anem aquí als filtres, que tenim aquí a mà dreta, i aquí teniu una sèrie de diferents filtres a aplicar a la nostra cerca. Anem aquí per temàtica i escollim, per exemple, ramaderia, aqüicultura, salut animal i seguretat alimentària. Apliquem. Triga una miqueta, sempre uns segons, a ensenyar-te la informació. I veiem aquí en el mapa de projectes, que era tot aquell núvol immens de projectes, ja veiem ressaltat en color el que nosaltres hem escollit. Aleshores, sí, podem anar a ampliar el zoom i podem anar a veure una miqueta com es troben els projectes d'aquesta temàtica que hem seleccionat. Aquest filtre, després, si ens desplacem, ho podem veure també aplicat a la xarxa d'entitats. La xarxa d'entitats, aquí veiem, cadascuna de les boletes és una entitat i la relació, la ratlleta que hi ha amb una altra bola t'indica que hi ha un projecte en què col·laboren aquestes dues entitats. Els colors diferents van en funció de si és una universitat, la tipologia de la gent del sistema, si és universitat, centre tecnològic, empresa o el que sigui. Aleshores, en el mòdul inferior, veiem una miqueta més en detall aquesta informació que ens mostra la imatge de les boletes. I aquí, fixeu-vos, podem veure el nombre de projectes, ho podem veure segons en termes de finançament, en volum de projectes o finançament, podem veure quines entitats tenim aquí representades. També, igual que el finançament, ho podem veure en nombre de projectes segons l'entitat o segons el finançament que han rebut. Podem veure també quins socis a l'exterior tenen aquestes entitats que veiem en el mapa i després, més en detall, podem tenir aquí tota la llista dels projectes que estem visualitzant allà. Aquí els projectes, a banda del títol, veiem de quin programa pengen, si és un horitzó, si és un projecte nostre de la RIS3, veiem tota la informació una miqueta més detallada. Exacte. I després, si anem clicant en aquest mòdul, i volem ampliar la informació d'un projecte en particular, doncs tenim aquesta finestra que allà hi ha una informació molt més detallada de l'abstract, les diferents entitats que participen en aquest projecte i tot molt més detallat. Després, una altra coseta que podem fer aquí és, tenim aquesta selecció de projectes, però volem fer una cerca una miqueta més prima. Doncs ens anem aquí al botó de cerca. Imaginem que sobre això volem veure més quins projectes inclouen, per exemple, la paraula porc en el seu títol o descripció. Fiquem aquí la paraula que ens interessa i apliquem el filtre. I aquí, a veure, que trec el zoom una miqueta. Aquí ja veieu que ens han reduït les boletes, el número d'entitats i de projectes. Igualment, anem aquí al mòdul inferior i tenim aquesta informació molt més acotada. Aquesta informació, el que comentava abans el Josep, la podeu extreure en un Excel i després a casa vostra, si voleu treballar amb aquestes dades, us anirà molt millor. Això seria com un primer cas que hem preparat. I tornem aquí a la presentació. Fem un segon cas. Segon cas. Imaginem que soc un policy maker i m'interessa saber la xarxa de col·laboració i els principals actors que tinc en funció d'uns diferents criteris. Per exemple, en funció d'una temàtica concreta que m'interessi a mi, o un àmbit prioritari, és a dir, els sistemes que tenim allà detallats, o per una qüestió territorial, que volem filtrar per una província que ens interessi. Doncs igual que abans. Ara anem a la plataforma i fem la cerca. Farem l'exercici amb el sistema d'energia i recursos. Si anem a la part de l'esquerra, ho podem filtrar per aquí. Cliquem a sobre del nom del sistema i ara a la visualització s'actualitza, triga uns segons, i ara veurem totes les entitats que estan treballant en el sistema d'energia i recursos. Això mateix també s'aplica, com hem dit abans, en el mapa de projectes. Aleshores, ens quedem aquí a xarxa d'entitats i va una miqueta... Triga uns segons a carregar les dades, però s'aplicaria el mateix filtre que hem posat als dos llocs. Anem a la xarxa d'entitats i busquem els nostres filtres de cerca. Si anem aquí per tipus d'entitat, doncs podem escollir que ens ensenyi els projectes en què participen les administracions públiques o centres de recerca, empresa, universitat, segons el que a nosaltres ens interessa buscar. Podem filtrar també amb un criteri territorial o podem filtrar també per un criteri per una temàtica concreta. Dins de tot el sistema d'energia i recursos podem anar filtrant el que més ens interessi. Igual que abans, si tota la informació que us interessi, us aneu al mòdul inferior i aneu buscant tot allò la informació que voleu extreure d'aquí. Podeu veure una altra vegada també aquí les entitats, en funció del número de projectes, el finançament, els socis de l'exterior i la llista de projectes també. Igual que abans, tot això sempre ho podreu exportar en Excel. Anem al tercer cas d'ús. Això seria, volem veure quin és l'estat de recerca en un àmbit d'actuació prioritari, el que sigui. Per exemple, el sistema alimentari. Suposem que soc un d'aquests actors líders del sistema, un centre de recerca que estigui en el top 10, per exemple. Aleshores, amb aquesta cerca què veurem? Veurem, sobretot, si ens anem al núvol de projectes, veurem quines són les subtemàtiques que s'engloben, que s'encabeixen dins d'aquest sistema que hem escollit. I podem veure també quina relació hi ha entre les subtemàtiques. Anem a la plataforma i fem l'exercici amb el sistema alimentari. Cliquem aquí a la part esquerra per seleccionar l'àmbit d'actuació i ens anem a mapa de projectes. Ja veieu totes les temàtiques que estan relacionades dintre del sistema alimentari. Però anem a acotar una miqueta més la cerca i ens podem anar aquí als filtres i escollir, per exemple, agricultura i botànica, agricultura, silvicultura, ciència, indústria alimentària, l'economia blava i la ramaderia, que la tenim cap al final, aquí. Apliquem. I ara el mapa ens queda una miqueta més net. Estem ressaltant ara les temàtiques que hem escollit. Aleshores, aquí, important és, si fem zoom, podem veure això que comentava abans el Josep. Estem veient aquestes òrbites i la relació entre els projectes. Com més agrupats estiguin, més relació a nivell semàntic hi ha entre aquests projectes, entre una temàtica i una altra. I també podem veure que hi ha d'aquestes subtemàtiques que hem escollit, veiem punts que s'allunyen una miqueta. O sigui, veiem com hi ha, tot i que com són aquests projectes que semànticament estan una miqueta més allunyats i que no estarien al centre. I ja per últim, el darrer cas que us hem preparat seria, té a veure amb el tema d'internacionalització dels projectes. Imaginem que estem en una oficina de projectes internacionals i, lògicament, que ens interessarà buscar socis a l'exterior. Aleshores, com fem això? De la mateixa manera, anem a buscar per un àmbit d'actuació concret, un sistema, veure quins projectes hi ha i a partir d'allà veure quins són els socis que hi participen. El mateix exercici. Al final és anar tocant una miqueta la plataforma i a casa vostra, després que exploreu tot això i aneu fent les cerques una miqueta a mida del que us interessa. Esborrem els filtres d'abans i us ensenyo.
Efectivament, aquesta plataforma té una vocació, com podeu veure, molt més d'exploració i de mirar, veure què passa. El mapa de projectes, sobretot, és un bon exemple perquè es descobreixen similituds i projectes que poden estar entre dues temàtiques diferents i que pot proveir de curiositats i de coses bastant peculiars que us animem a que l'utilitzeu.
Doncs el que us comentava. Imaginem que som agents d'una oficina d'internacionalització de projectes i anem a buscar aquells socis. Farem l'exercici ara seleccionant el sistema d'energia i filtrarem una miqueta més també per temàtiques per acotar que no tenir tanta informació a la pantalla. Anem igual que abans, anem als filtres i les temàtiques escollim, per exemple, clima, economia blava, que estava per aquí, i gestió de l'aigua, per exemple. Aquí. Apliquem. Independentment del que veiem ara en pantalla, ja sigui mapa de projectes, al final anem a buscar els socis a l'exterior. Doncs ens anem una altra vegada al mòdul inferior, que és on tenim la informació detallada, i fixeu-vos aquí en aquesta pestanya, socis a l'exterior. Aquí ens està dient quins són els socis estrangers que tenen els projectes que estem visualitzant. I ens ho ensenya, per una banda, classificat per països, tot això d'aquí, ens dona els totals, i aquí, a la part de la dreta, tenim les entitats concretes. A més, si no recordo malament, aquí podem clicar sobre un país concret i ens ensenya, a més, una altra nova classificació que seria ja per regions d'aquest país. I és qüestió d'anar jugant una miqueta, anar mirant, m'interessa veure el nombre de projectes o en termes de finançament. Si després d'això aquí vull veure la informació detallada dels projectes, aquí és sempre on tindré més informació. I al final és una miqueta, us hem intentat aquí il·lustrar com 4 casos, però és el que us comentaven, ja és qüestió ara que cadascú a casa vostra, en funció de les seves necessitats, doncs jugui una miqueta amb la plataforma, vegi quins filtres hi ha i veure quina és la informació que li va bé per fer la seva feina dintre de tot el sistema. I per part nostra fins aquí. Ara si teniu qualsevol dubte d'alguna funcionalitat o alguna cosa que no hagi quedat clara, doncs endavant. Massa informació.
Bé, Marta, gràcies per la presentació. Per aquí pel xat de YouTube no ens arriba cap pregunta, però sí que alguna cosa que penso que potser podria sorgir és, veient la plataforma i la quantitat enorme de dades que té, i hem vist que a vegades potser li costa una mica que carregar tota la informació. Algú ens podria preguntar o es podria preguntar si està previst fer alguna millora en el que és els servidors o alguna cosa per millorar-ne l'agilitat.
Sí, aquest és, ja ho he comentat al principi, és una eina que hem publicat fa molt poc i sí que tenim previstes tasques d'optimització, tant de, la quantitat de dades que porta aquesta base de dades és bastant grossa i farem optimitzacions tant amb les comunicacions que fa amb els servidors com per la part de la mateixa plataforma a la part de front-end està totalment previst.
Contestant a aquesta pregunta també, aquesta plataforma la vam començar a dissenyar el 2017 i hem anat construint sobre una base que s'ha quedat una mica obsoleta, diguéssim. Llavors, de cara a l'any que ve haurem de començar a pensar, sobretot ara, perquè una cosa que no he dit abans que m'he oblidat és que ara començarem a fer una ronda amb tots els departaments de la Generalitat per incorporar dades que no siguin només de projectes europeus, sinó que es puguin ser, de salut, de les convocatòries que fa el Departament de Salut o amb acció climàtica també estem treballant. Llavors, això implicaria multiplicar el nombre de projectes i que de cara a l'any que ve ens haurem de pensar canviar la infraestructura bàsica i ampliar-la.
Em sembla fantàstica l'eina i m'interessa molt el mapa aquest, que és la novetat d'aquesta versió. I aleshores estava intentant entendre el mapa, que portem 20 anys fent mapes globals de la ciència, però la majoria dels que havíem fet fins ara eren molt acadèmics, en el sentit que els clústers eren més aviat disciplinaris. I aquí m'estava preguntant, aquí veig que hi ha també temes com salut digital o economia blava, que de fet ja són com aplicacions i que hi ha en canvi altres que són com quanta i fotònica, que són com molt acadèmics. I m'estic preguntant, hi ha múltiples lògiques dintre del mapa, possiblement perquè ha estat fet a través de topic modeling. I la pregunta és si heu reconegut patrons damunt del mapa. Per exemple, a l'esquerra sembla que hi ha temes més de salut, no sé si temes més de gestió política damunt a la dreta. Quins són els patrons generals que heu trobat, malgrat la barreja de disciplines i sectors econòmics?
Bàsicament, l'objectiu amb aquest exercici i aquest mapa, que al final el que fa és representa en dues dimensions la complexitat dels projectes de recerca i innovació que es fan amb socis com catalans, i l'objectiu era identificar quines, representar en dues dimensions per facilitar l'accés, però també identificar com clústers o comunitats temàtiques per ajudar les comunitats o temàtiques emergents que permeten, diguéssim, descriure millor la recerca que es fa amb actors catalans. I al final, aquestes comunitats, l'objectiu era trobar grups en projectes semblants on hi ha al final una massa crítica de projectes prou rellevant, en el sentit de hi ha projectes que s'assemblen molt i a vegades són d'un àmbit o d'una malaltia molt en concret, com seria el cas de càncer, però a vegades són projectes que s'assemblen molt, com projectes més de policy o de recerca i innovació responsable o de temes més de transicions o projectes més que tenen més objectius més socials, i així s'han anat trobant. I bàsicament sí que el que sí que et respondria és hi ha aquests projectes més de ciència disciplinar o més de recerca com bàsica o més com química, com biologia molecular, etc., però també hi ha projectes molt més aplicats com són al final les convocatòries dels projectes, dels Societal Challenges i com tot això. I al final si fiquen més projectes l'objectiu és tornar a executar l'algoritme i trobar noves temàtiques que millor descriguin els projectes catalans. I canviarà també la disposició del mapa perquè l'objectiu és que comuniqui millor la recerca que es fa. I això és.
Aprofito que passava per aquí. Jo dues preguntes. Es pot visualitzar, o sigui, així veiem aquest 2D, tot el mapa, però es pot visualitzar l'ontologia que s'ha creat i després l'altra seria si teniu previst alguna estratègia a curt termini d'aplicar més aspectes d'intel·ligència artificial per ajudar-nos a interpretar molt millor aquest mapa. I felicitats per la iniciativa perquè és superpotent i segur que ens ajudarà molt a fer molts dissenys molt més acurats d'innovació i de recerca aplicable. Gràcies. Nico, també. T'ha tocat.
En aquest sentit, un dels propers passos és afegir, ara mateix només associem projectes a una de les temàtiques, però un dels propers passos és permetre que els projectes ja no sigui, diguem-ne, 1 o 0, sinó que pertanyin a diverses de les temàtiques, segons un percentatge, i es puguin fer, llavors permet a l'hora de filtrar fer cerques molt més interessants. Disculpa, la pregunta que has fet una pregunta composta, la primera part, quina ha sigut exactament? Sí, correcte. Sí, de fet, ho havia obert aquí. Això és a part de la feina científica del Nicolau Duran, també hi ha la feina del Guillem Rull, que és la de desenvolupament de tota l'ontologia, que és l'ontologia que hem fet a Siris. Una ontologia, al final, no és més que una representació conceptual del que és un àmbit concret, i nosaltres hem anat desenvolupant aquesta ontologia i segons s'han afegit noves funcionalitats a la plataforma o nous grups de dades s'ha anat ampliant. I mitjançant aquesta ontologia és després amb la que podem fer aquestes consultes d'Sparkle ja més concretes i més tècniques.
Responent a la segona pregunta també, de quines noves eines. Hi ha, per una banda, la part més explorativa d'extracció d'informació, de categorització automàtica, que ara mateix es classifica amb els sistemes de RIS3-MCAT 2030, també s'extreuen les paraules clau, s'identifiquen les temàtiques emergents, algunes idees, però al final això també dient a l'equip com s'ha de prioritzar quines són les millores i el que té més sentit és potser afegir unes idees, noves categoritzacions com a estàndard, com potser podrien ser els clústers d'Horizon Europe, potser classificar amb aquestes taxonomies o amb àrees del coneixement. També algunes altres coses podrien estar relacionades amb no només utilitzar les descripcions dels projectes i els títols, sinó utilitzar els informes, altres tipus d'outputs com dels projectes, perquè al final hi ha aquesta part de simplificació que un projecte de recerca i innovació dura 3 anys, es fan moltes activitats molt diferents i estem extraient la informació, classificant-lo amb temàtiques o reptes en funció de la descripció del projecte, que és una simplificació del projecte, perquè potser es fan moltes més contribucions o aplicacions o experiments en llocs del territori, algun altre objectiu estaria més relacionat en identificar topònims o entitats geogràfiques dels projectes, on es fan, on s'experimenta, això.
Volia afegir només una cosa, aquí no és massa tècnic per entendre el tema de l'ontologia i el tema de la classificació semàntica. Aquesta ontologia és la manera per interrogar la base de dades. No és l'ontologia en el sentit de la classificació del mapa que veieu. Aquesta és una manera perquè hi ha un sistema, com que són fonts de data que tenen diferent origen, hi ha un layer que d'alguna manera connecta tota aquesta informació i per l'usuari, utilitzant aquesta ontologia, no ha de saber si aquestes dates són les dates de la Generalitat, si són de la Comissió Europea o si són de CDT. És un filtre semàntic en aquest sentit. L'altre nivell és un tema de la semàntica que hi ha per darrere la classificació i aquí és un repte. Ara el que tenim és una classificació d'alguna manera emergent, un topic modeling, que no és altre que una classificació per proximitat de paraula i de concepte, però l'esforç seria interpretar-ho i construir un gràfic que realment representi aquesta visió semàntica. I això és el futur, això és el que s'ha de treballar i és necessari treballar també amb una visió experta per interpretar el que estem representant, que d'aquesta manera és d'alguna manera emergent, però no està interpretat. Per això no hi ha una ontologia, hi ha tòpics. Només això.